In late June, Rush had to postpone 2 shows on their first tour in 11 years. The official reason: Geddy Lee had been diagnosed with laryngitis and bronchitis. For a 72-year-old singer attempting one of the most demanding vocal catalogs in rock history, that news set off an obvious question across the fan base. Is his voice finally going? It's a fair thing to wonder. Rush's music was built around Geddy Lee's voice doing things most singers can't do at any age, let alone in their 70s. So when word got out that he was sick, a lot of people assumed the worst. Some assumed the band would quietly drop the songs into lower keys to protect him, the way plenty of aging rock singers do when the top of their range disappears. Here's the part that surprised even people who've followed this band for decades. They didn't lower anything. And the voice isn't going. If anything, it's doing something almost nobody expected. Let's back up. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what Geddy Lee's voice actually was in the 70s, and why it was never going to age like a normal singer's voice in the first place. On songs like Anthem and the early Rush catalog, Lee wasn't just singing high. He was singing in an extreme head voice, almost falsetto-adjacent range, with a forced, nasal edge that gave Rush its signature sound. That's an incredibly demanding way to sing. Most vocalists who try to hold that kind of tension night after night on tour burn their voice out inside a few years. It's part of why so many rock singers from that era either lost their range entirely or quietly rebuilt their whole technique by their 40s. Geddy Lee did exactly that. Starting around Moving Pictures and Signals in the early 80s, he pulled his singing down into a more relaxed mix, closer to his natural speaking register, with less strain and less of that piercing top end. That wasn't decline. That was a professional singer doing damage control, trading some of the wail for career longevity. It's the same instinct a smart drummer has when they stop hitting as hard early in their career so their wrists still work at 60. By the time Rush wrapped their last tour in 2015, Lee's range had narrowed further, which is completely normal. Vocal cords lose mass and elasticity with age, the same way muscle does anywhere else in the body. Everyone assumed that was the end of the story, that whatever was left in 2015 was as good as it was going to get. Then the band announced this reunion tour 11 years later, and Geddy Lee did something most singers his age never even attempt. He went into vocal coaching, not vocal rest, not just being careful. Actual technical retraining, the same kind of process an opera singer or a professional voice actor does to rebuild range and stamina. And when the tour actually started in June, multiple reviewers who were in the room noted the results. On opening night, he hit his old high notes and audibly relieved a nervous crowd. By the second show, he was described as sounding even stronger, digging into some of the hardest corners of the catalog. He took on Free Will, a song they hadn't played since 2011, including its brutally difficult final verse. He tackled the punishing high part of Anthem, a song from 1974, and joked afterward that it pushed him into what he called a Mickey Mouse range, his own words for just how high he was reaching. On one song, Dreamline, he even took the chorus up an octave in the moment, just because he could. So no, they didn't lower the keys. The songs are being played the way they were written, in some cases harder than they were played on the last tour. What changed wasn't the arrangement. What changed was the amount of work Geddy Lee put in behind the scenes before a single ticket went on sale. There's a smart structural reason this was even possible too. For the first time, Rush is touring with a full-time keyboardist, Lauren Gold, handling parts that Lee used to play himself while singing simultaneously. Anyone who's tried to sing a technically demanding vocal line while also playing an independent keyboard part with your other hand knows how much mental bandwidth that eats up. Freeing Lee from some of that multitasking gives him more room to focus purely on the vocal performance, which may be quietly contributing to why he sounds so strong. Which brings us back to the illness. Laryngitis and bronchitis aren't signs of a voice failing structurally. They're a respiratory infection, the same thing that can knock out a singer of any age, at any point in their career. It happens to 25-year-old touring vocalists constantly. The postponement wasn't evidence that the rebuilt voice was cracking. It was just bad timing, a virus catching up with a 72-year-old body in the middle of a grueling touring schedule. The band rescheduled, Lee recovered, and the shows since then have continued getting strong reviews for exactly the same reason. A voice that's been retrained, not one that's deteriorating. It's worth sitting with how unusual that actually is. Most singers in their 70s who still tour at all have made peace with a diminished instrument, and audiences generally accept that as the cost of seeing a legend live. Geddy Lee looked at 11 years off the road, decided that wasn't good enough for him, and did the unglamorous work to close the gap instead of just lowering expectations along with the keys. So if you're watching one of these shows, and it sounds like Geddy Lee is somehow singing like he did a decade ago, that's not your imagination. And it's not the band making it easier on him. That's what it actually sounds like when a professional musician refuses to accept getting older as the end of the story.